They uncovered a shocking truth about God's isolation, a divine love that transforms lives. Few knew what truly happened that night at the edges of Jericho, where the shadows danced with secrets and whispers filled the air like a capricious wind. A frail man, worn by the weight of endless yesterdays, stood at the threshold of the miraculous, where heaven and earth collided in a moment of pure, unfiltered wonder. It was a night shrouded in darkness, broken only by the flicker of torches and the murmurs of an anxious crowd. They had all come searching for hope. The glimmer of faith shone in their eyes, yet beneath the surface lay the torrent of doubt. How could a mere mortal believe he could reach the divine? This was the stirring moment for a man named Bartimaeus, blind since birth, clinging to the edge of despair. The bustling city of Jericho bore witness to miracles but also to the scars of the past. This city had been a throne of victory for the Israelites, and now stood a reminder of faith for some, yet a bitter memory for others. Rich merchants roamed the streets, their laughter contrasting with the hollow cries of the lost. A miracle loomed, but it required a leap beyond the abyss of isolation to grasp it, and then it happened. A figure approached, shrouded in the essence of divine grace. "Jesus of Nazareth," they said. The murmurs in the crowd rose to a crescendo, a collective gasp. Bartimaeus, whole heart racing, sensing the weight of that presence, felt a fire ignite within him. The clamor of the crowd surged, laughter turning to gasps, confusion painting their faces as they grumbled for silence. What will he do? Someone whispered, tension wrapping around the air, and then, in an act that sent chills through everyone witnessing, Bartimaeus shouted, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Desperation cracked through his voice, raw and aching. The crowd scorned him, shushing and pushing him back into the shadows, yet he would not be deterred. Here, amidst the noise and derision, stood the lonely man, shaking and trembling yet defiant. Jesus stopped. The world around fell silent. Time seemed to drift like leaves in an autumn breeze. Did he hear him? Fear grasped at hearts, uncertainty fluttered. Would the one they called the Messiah heed the cry of a blind beggar lost in the depths of isolation? In that moment, Bartimaeus' spirit soared. Hope flickered, illuminating the despair with a soft glow, but as the silence thickened, questions lingered in the air. Why did Jesus choose to pause in that very moment? What hidden truths lay beneath the surface of Bartimaeus' plea? Could love and miracle coexist in a world woven with isolation and pain? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the weight of silence enveloped the scene, Bartimaeus stood unwavering before Jesus, the moment stretching taut between hope and despair. The air, charged with anticipation, felt electric, and in that breathless instant, the proud figures of those around felt their doubts unmoor. The murmurs of the crowd dulled, making way for the voice that would bridge the abyss of isolation. "Call him," Jesus commanded, his voice enveloped in authority yet tender like a shepherd's call. Bartimaeus, heart pounding, understood the echo of his name, his being ignited with renewed vigor. The crowd, once dismissive and unkind, brushed aside their reservations and beckoned him closer. "Take heart. Get up, he is calling you." They urged, as if they themselves were transformed in that moment. With the fervor of a man reborn, Bartimaeus flung aside his outer cloak, shedding the remnants of his past. He no longer wore the shroud of blindness or shame but instead donned a cloak of expectancy. His feet, unsteady at first, found a sense of purpose as he navigated toward the healer, guided by the voices that now held a newfound sense of reverence. As he approached, Jesus' gaze pierced through the layers of darkness that had cocooned Bartimaeus for so long. "What do you want me to do for you?" he asked, not in a manner of obligation, but as if unveiling the profound potential hidden within the hurt. Bartimaeus, without hesitation, replied, "Rabbi, let me recover my sight." The response hung in the air, a poignant testament to the faith that rumbled deep within him. Here, in the presence of the divine, a blind man found the courage to affirm his desire, his cry for restoration echoing the unspoken hopes of all who lingered in the shadowed fringes of Jericho. In that sacred exchange, Bartimaeus stood not merely as a beggar but as a soul yearning for connection, for belief in a love that could mend all fractures. Jesus nodded, a soft smile breaking across his lips, a reflection of the divine love that flowed through him. "Go your way, your faith has made you well," he declared, each word spilling forth like a waterfall after a long drought. Instantly, something remarkable happened. Light pierced through the veil of darkness, colors flooded Bartimaeus' vision, and the shapes of life that had eluded him danced into focus. The vibrant tapestries of the world exploded into being: the cerulean sky, the vivid hues of the robes around him, the faces once veiled by shadows. Yet as he stood engulfed in this newfound embrace of sight, uncertainty crept into his heart. While the miracle had transformed him, he felt the weight of his decision. Would he retreat to isolation, or follow the path the light now illuminated? The crowd, its buoyant shouts now ringing in joy, surged with wonder, but in Bartimaeus' heart, a deeper question simmered. What does it truly mean to live freely in the light amidst a world still shadowed by despair? As he gazed into the faces of those around him, some jubilant, others still weaving through their uncertainty, he felt a stirring responsibility. Was the miracle for his eyes to see alone, or was it a calling to lift others from their silence and suffering? Could he, once lost in darkness, guide others toward their own light? And so, Bartimaeus stood at a crossroads, not just of sight, but of purpose, each heartbeat resonating with the unanswered question: in a world filled with isolation and pain, how does one become a vessel of the love and miracles they have received? The jubilation that enveloped Bartimaeus was palpable, yet amid the celebration, echoes of uncertainty lingered in his heart. He could feel the weight of the world that still bore the scars of suffering and disillusionment. With every blink, he absorbed the vibrant sights around him, but the narratives of those drowning in despair haunted him like shadows chasing the light. The crowd surged onward, their joyous proclamations ringing in his ears, but Bartimaeus felt tethered, a pilgrim reluctant to leave the sacred ground where he encountered the divine. As he steadied himself in the brilliance of his new reality, he was approached by a woman whose countenance bore the marks of hardship, her eyes dim yet hopeful. "Did you truly see the light?" she asked softly, a tremor lacing her voice. The question hung heavy between them, like an unanswered prayer suspended in time. Bartimaeus felt a flicker of recognition. He had once been as she was, shrouded in darkness and longing. "I have," he replied, the truth pulsing in his chest. "But the light does not belong only to me." He watched as the woman's gaze sharpened, a spark igniting where hopelessness had dwelt. "What is your name?" he inquired, drawing her closer into the embrace of shared vulnerability. "Esther," she whispered, wiping away the tears that glistened like morning dew on her cheeks. Bartimaeus could sense her battles of faith, the inner conflict between despair and the yearning for hope. "Esther," he said gently, "you too can experience the light. Jesus sees you, just as he saw me. But we must reach for him, even if it feels like a leap into the unknown." His words were a bridge, an invitation to step into the unknown together, under the banner of a shared faith. As they spoke, Bartimaeus' heart unfolded further, contemplating the tapestry of lives surrounding him. Each person at the scene, from the jubilant and healed to the quiet and pained, bore their stories of isolation, woven together by an invisible thread of longing. Did they recognize the miracle that had just occurred? Did they see the depth of their enemy, not in flesh, but in the fears and grief that consumed them? The air thickened with thoughts unexpressed, questions unasked. Yet among the profoundly joyous and the quietly despairing, an intrinsic truth radiated: all were bound by their humanity and their desire for connection. Could it be that transformation was not merely receiving sight, but awakening a deeper calling to love one another in their collective darkness? As Bartimaeus led Esther toward the heart of the crowd, he saw another figure lingering on the fringes, a man whose eyes seemed clouded with the weight of previous tragedies. Bartimaeus felt a pull to engage him, whispering truth to those in need of guidance. As they approached, the man turned away, not ready to break through the isolation he wore like a cloak. Yet Bartimaeus realized that healing may not be a one-time event but a journey requiring companions, trust, and the bravery to lay bare one's condor. In that moment, Bartimaeus understood, to walk in the light meant to invite others to find their way out of darkness. The miracle bestowed upon him was a seed planted within, urging him to cultivate faith not just for himself, but as a communal art of love. Yet, as he reflected upon this silent resolution, another question arose, prickling the edges of his clarity: what if not everyone would embrace the light? What if his attempts to guide others would be met with doubt and rejection? And so, amidst the celebratory chaos, Bartimaeus stood, now a man not just of sight, but a vessel of hope, confronted yet again by the question: how does one share the gift of transformation when the very act of illumination can incite fear and resistance in others? As the jubilation began to soften around him, Bartimaeus felt the urgency in his heart swell like a tide, drawn to the deeper essence of faith woven into the very fabric of the gathering. He looked at Esther, her fragile hope holding the promise of a new dawn. With each step forward, he understood the mantle now resting on his shoulders to share, to guide, and perhaps to challenge. In the stirring warmth of the crowd, Bartimaeus turned his gaze to the sea of faces. Each one, a story, a myriad of experiences both bright and bleak. Some rejoiced, arms lifted to the heavens, while others remained skeptical, standing rooted, haunted by shadows the light had not yet dispelled. "Esther," he said softly, "what do you see in your heart?" The question lingered in the air, inviting introspection and connection. She paused, letting the words settle within her. "I see a world longing for healing, Bartimaeus. But I fear we may not know how to find it," she replied, her voice trembling, yet infused with a yearning. "But what if the darkness beckons us closer to the truth of our existence?" He mused. What if in each interstice of despair lies the potential for something profoundly new? A love that binds us in our vulnerability. As Bartimaeus spoke, he felt an energy rising within him. It was a revelation that he had not yet fully grasped, that isolation was a specter that shadowed the human soul, demanding a reckoning with that which lay unseen. Could it be that everyone, every broken spirit, carried a shard of divine purpose hidden amidst their trials? He sought the man who had turned away, now lingering at the edge of their gathering. There was something familiar about him, a gravitational pull that captivated Bartimaeus' spirit. He approached, mindful that some wounds required gentleness to be acknowledged. "Sir," he called softly, "I see you there, and I feel your struggle. We all carry our stories, yet here among us, we find an invitation to be held in our grief as we journey towards joy." The man hesitated, his posture tightening defensively, and Bartimaeus could feel the silent storm raging within. This was more than a mere reluctance, it was a testament to the unseen battles fought each day. "Why should I trust any light?" The man finally spoke, his voice layered with anguish. "Everything I believed in has been stripped away. Hope feels like a cruel jest." Bartimaeus held his breath, realizing that trust was not a simple currency, it was earned through presence and shared humanity. Trust does not spring from a single act, it grows in the soil of witness, of understanding. "Can I not stand with you in the shadows?" He replied, his heart aligning with something vast and unnameable, an echo of divine love. A silence descended, pregnant with possibility. Bartimaeus sensed the walls around the man begin to tremble, a crack forming in the facade of despair. The light they sought was not merely a radiant presence but an ancient call to reflect on their interconnectedness, their sufficiency in love despite the pain of existence. As others began to draw near, intrigued by the unfolding exchange, Bartimaeus realized the significance of vulnerability. In sharing their traumas, they formed a lattice of resilience and compassion, where the brokenness of one could blend with the strength of another. But beneath this burgeoning sense of communion unfurled a new question, both thrilling and daunting: how can those of us who have glimpsed the light help others trust in what they cannot see? How does one nurture faith when despair seems so invincible? The crowd continues to swell, blending stories of light and darkness, each heart a vessel carried on the ebb and flow of yearning. Together, they stood, seeking to navigate the rich tapestry of existence. Yet in the depths of his own yearning soul, Bartimaeus knew the journey was just beginning. What awaited them in this uncharted landscape of faith and connection? As Bartimaeus lingered in the presence of the man cloaked in sorrow, the soft murmurs of the crowd enveloped them, creating a sacred space where the vulnerable could meet the resilient. An unexpected hush fell upon the gathering, as if the very air held its breath, waiting for the next thread of revelation to weave through their collective spirit. "What if," Esther interjected gently from beside Bartimaeus, "the darkness we fear is not an absence of light, but a depth from which light can be reborn?" Her question hung like a golden thread in the twilight air, inviting contemplation. The man's eyes flickered, a glimmer of curiosity fighting against the shadows that clung to his heart. "You speak of rebirth as if it's easy," he muttered, his weariness evident. "You don't know what it's like to stand alone, stripped of all that once felt secure. Is not the becoming of a new dawn marked by the upheaval of night?" Bartimaeus replied, his voice steady yet filled with compassion. "Perhaps our isolation is meant to teach us the weight of love and the beauty of resilience. We share in the struggle, perhaps in that sharing, we discover the profound truth that we are never truly alone." With that, Bartimaeus' gaze swept over the crowd once more, recognizing the myriad threads of humanity grappling with their own isolation. Each face, whether joy-filled or sorrow-laden, echoed the intricate dance of hope and despair. Here was a gathering not merely seeking solace but engaging in the deep and messy reality of transformation. That he turned back to the man. "Can you not see, brother? Our individual separations have led us here, together. In our darkest moments, we stand testament to divine love yearning to transform us. Our isolation is not a rupture, it is a call to deeper connection." Suddenly, a faint whisper passed through the gathering, the rustling of thoughts stirring within hearts. "How do we transcend our pain?" one voice called from the audience. "What path leads us from our isolation into the light?" A ripple of uncertainty pulsed through Bartimaeus' spirit. Would he be able to answer such a profound question? He shifted, feeling the weight of expectation upon his shoulders. "Each journey is unique," he responded slowly, "yet we find commonality in our wounds. Perhaps we journey from suffering to connection by embracing our shared humanity. In our pain lies the pathway to understanding." Another echoed voice rose, trembling with fear. "But what if our pain overwhelms us? What if we cannot find the strength to reach out?" There was a collective holding of breath, as if the consciousness of longing coalesced into one shared heart. "Here is where faith comes alive," Bartimaeus articulated, drawing strength from the moment itself. "Faith is the bridge we build, step by step, into the unknown. It's an act defined by trust that light exists even when we see shadows, trust that love can reach into the depths of despair. Each of us must hold the other's hand as we fearlessly stumble toward the promise of dawn." As he spoke, Bartimaeus felt the atmosphere shift, a current of energy swirling with the unspoken fears and hopes of the crowd. It wasn't merely his words, it was the shared acknowledgement of their struggles, the tender unity that blossomed when vulnerability was met with compassion. But lurking beneath this burgeoning connection was the question that quivered within him even as they ventured toward faith: could they truly conquer the depths of their isolation? Or were they simply dressing their wounds with the insubstantial salve of words? Would this shared journey be enough to mend the fractures in their hearts? As the gathering leaned into this moment, acknowledging their fears and aspirations, Bartimaeus sensed a profound truth waiting to unfold: a divine love capable of shattering the barriers built by despair yet still remaining mysterious and elusive. How might they fully access this transformative grace, and could it redefine their understanding of what it means to belong? The answers lay entwined within the heartbeats of the assembly, just waiting for the courage to be unearthed. As the murmurs grew softer, an unexpected figure stepped forth from the crowd, a woman whose sorrow had etched lines across her brow. Her presence commanded attention, not in grandeur, but through the raw vulnerability that radiated from her very being. "My name is Seraphine," she began, her voice a fragile thread, "and I come bearing the weight of a grief that has haunted me for years." The eyes of the assembly turned to her, intrigued yet heavy with empathy. Bartimaeus felt his heart flutter. Here was another life intertwined with the narrative of sorrow and hope he sought to explore. "I lost my child," Seraphine continued, her voice trembling like the flame of a candle dancing against the wind. In the silence that followed, I found myself in a hollowed-out existence, a darkness so thick it seemed to swallow every ounce of light. The crowd leaned in closer, an unspoken agreement binding them all within the sanctity of her shared pain. In my isolation, I battled not only my grief but the raging conflict within me. How could a loving God allow such devastation? I stuffed my questions deep, fearing they would fracture my faith further. Her words fell like rain upon parched ground, revitalizing an understanding long neglected among them. Bartimaeus felt the Spirit stir, an invitation to delve deeper into the layers of their existential struggles. Have you ever dared to express those questions? He posed gently, recognizing the precarious edge on which she stood. Seraphine's eyes flickered. I hid them away, afraid that to voice them would shatter the hope I feigned. A murmur of recognition swept through the assembly. Many had bottled up the unspeakable in fear of its power. But what if, Bartimaeus ventured, by confronting those very questions, you could find a path to healing? What if your struggle was not a path away from God, but toward Him? Her gaze bore into the heart of the gathering. What if my pain is a testament to the very love I seek? There was a silence where the only sound was the heartbeat of hope mingling with uncertainty. The air became electric with the possibility of a shared understanding. Bartimaeus, feeling the depth of Seraphine's revelation, offered his own vulnerability. I too have tasted despair when sight evaded me for so long. I wondered if I'd ever feel whole again. In that darkness, I learned the power of community, the lifeline that pulled me, little by little, back toward the light. That he scanned the assembly, seeing former strangers now kindred in shared exploration. Is it not through our confessions, our raw and unfiltered truths, that we can grasp hold of the divine love waiting to transform us? Seraphine nodded, her tears shimmering, reflecting the glimmers of connection forming amidst their gathering. But can I truly reconcile my pain with hope? Is it possible to embrace a faith that accommodates my grief? As she spoke, another voice emerged from the assembly, a man who had been pondering the edges of his own isolation. We often speak of a God who heals, but what happens when healing feels distant, when sorrow overshadows the promise of comfort? His words were not a challenge but rather a weaving thread. Bartimaeus felt the tension shift again, an unspoken struggle binding them tighter. Perhaps we must understand that God exists in the cracks of our suffering, amid our silence, and within our struggle. Our wounds do not distance us from His love, they become the very canvas through which His grace is painted. The crowd stirred, the air filling with barely contained longing. Could it be that their collective pain was not a barrier but a bridge, a sacred space through which to discover the transformative power of divine love? And outside the safety of this moment, night continued to blanket the land, shadows deepening as they embraced the unfolding truth. Each person wrestled with their individual fears, still uncertain of what lay ahead. Would they dare to accept the invitation into this deeper communion, embracing the mysteries that swirled within their shared vulnerability? As silence enveloped the gathering, once more, lingering questions hung heavy in the air, beckoning to be explored. What if the path toward belonging was indeed forged through the very darkness they feared? And could faith blossom not just in light, but in the sacred soil of their shared grief? In the quiet moments that followed, the assembly found themselves suspended in contemplation, grappling with the weight of Seraphine's grief interlaced with their own. Bartimaeus watched as expressions danced across their faces, curiosity mingled with doubt, hope flickering amid uncertainty. They were all artists of life, painting their stories with strokes of pain and vibrance, creating a tapestry rich in both shadow and light. As the flickering torches cast long shadows, a man named Eli, who stood at the edge of the gathering, stepped forward, compelled by a force he could not name. These questions we harbor, this ache we hide, it is as if we are clinging to the remnants of shattered clay pots. How can something so broken still hold value in the eyes of our Creator? His voice held a tremor, reflecting both his fear and yearning for understanding. Bartimaeus recognized that Ella's question invited a deeper exploration of what it meant to confront their collective suffering. What if, instead of seeing ourselves as mere fragments, we acknowledged that these cracks let light seep through? He proposed. Isn't it in our acknowledgement of wounds that we can begin to understand God's relentless pursuit of us? Perhaps His love is not merely for the whole, but for the broken, the wandering, the lost. A soft rustle moved through the gathering, and Seraphine ventured forth again, her brow furrowed with questions yet to be unearthed. But can we truly believe God remains with us in our suffering? When I cried out for comfort, it felt as though the heavens were silent, distanced from my plight. Her voice quivered, unveiling the depth of her vulnerability once more. Ah, dear Seraphine, Bartimaeus replied earnestly, isn't silence itself a voice in the divine conversation? God speaks not only in answered prayers but also in the resonance of our hearts, in the stillness that invites contemplation. But Eli interjected, drawing upon a longing that gripped him tightly. Yet, what assurance do we have that God is truly active in our pain? We yearn for His presence, yet it often feels as if we walk alone through the valleys of despair. In the lingering questions, the Spirit felt emboldened, allowing Bartimaeus to delve deeper into the mystery they faced. Remember, my friends, that Jesus Himself bore the weight of human sorrow. He cried out from the depths of anguish, my God, why have you forsaken me? In that very moment of abandonment, the promise of His love was unveiled. It was an invitation to our own narrative. The crowd listened intently, as if each word resonated within their own struggles. Could it be, Bartimaeus continued, that our doubts and our grief lead us to a more profound understanding of His love? The beauty of our search lies in our ability to ask, to seek, and to knock. What if these moments of uncertainty were not betrayal but rather the beginning of an authentic relationship with the divine? Seraphine's expression softened, wisdom dawning within her. But how do we carry the tension of this love which feels both near and far? How do I accept joy when my heart is still steeped in sorrow? A soft murmur rippled through the gathering, and Bartimaeus felt his spirit lift. The embrace of God is not a removal of pain but a walk alongside us within it. Perhaps the questions you carry are stones that can become altars for healing, where you can lay down your grief. What if, within that vulnerability, we each find our unique communion with God, around them, faces transformed? Each individual began to realize that their pain mattered in the grand tapestry of grace, woven together with the threads of love even in isolation. The air grew thick with intangible hope, stirring an awareness of connection to something much greater. Yet, as the stars winked against the velvet sky, shadows slipped behind the firelight, reminding them that they stood at the precipice of the unknown. The path ahead remained unclear, a canvas untouched and yearning for expression. Could they carve out a journey where despair woven with faith created a new portrait of life? As the gathering settled into silence once more, a haunting question lingered in the air, beckoning reflection. What does it truly mean to find hope in the unanswered, and how might our relationships with God deepen through the exploration of our grief? The flickering flames danced as if to the rhythm of their thoughts, casting mysterious shadows that flickered across the faces of those gathered. Silence enveloped them, filled with reverence and the weight of shared burdens. Each person felt the gravity of Ella's poignant question still hanging in the air, twisting through their hearts and minds like a winding path through a dense forest. It was then that Miriam, a woman known for her gentle spirit and unwavering faith, spoke softly. What if our pain, this isolation we feel, is not a sign of God's abandonment but an invitation to seek His presence in a way we have not yet dared to? Her eyes sparkled with the light of understanding. In solitude, perhaps we uncover hidden layers of ourselves, even encountering God in unexpected ways. Solitude can be a crucible for transformation, Bartimaeus acknowledged, encouraged by Miriam's insight. In the quiet moments, we peel away the distractions, bringing to the surface all that is unsaid. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the gathering. But to embark on this journey takes courage. It requires us to confront the shadows lurking within. The group leaned in closer, intrigued by the insight unfolding before them. Seraphine, still in her vulnerable state, asked, "But what if the shadows are too dark? What if I can't bear to face them alone?" Her voice trembled, revealing the uncertainty that gripped her heart tightly. "Consider the story of Job," Bartimaeus replied thoughtfully, his tone steady. He lived through unimaginable suffering yet sought God earnestly amid his pain. His cries echoed deep in the night, and though he felt abandoned, God was ever present, listening in the silence. He paused, allowing the weight of Job's story to resonate with the assembly. Sometimes, it is in the wrestling with our questions that we encounter God's overwhelming grace. Eli nodded slowly, contemplating. But how do we trust that God is near when grief renders our spirits weary and heavy? How can I know that what I seek in silence is indeed there? Miriam reached out, her gentle touch comforting as she replied. What if we view our grief not merely as loss but as a sacred space? A place where we can invite God to meet us? Maybe our rawest emotions, even anger and despair, can lead us deeper into His heart. It's in acknowledging our vulnerabilities that we find God's strength. The gathering absorbed her words, a collective shift occurring within their hearts. They began to see how their stories, fraught with struggle, could intertwine with the tapestry of divine love. The air thickened with a palpable sense of unity. Vulnerability began weaving them together like threads of gold. A deep relationship with the divine often arises from the in-between spaces, Bartimaeus said, his voice calm and steady. It is the longing, the questioning, that guides us nearer to the heart of God. We may find that our ability to embrace sorrow opens doors to understanding joy, balancing both as essential parts of our journey. He noticed the flicker of understanding in their eyes, a gleam of hope igniting. Perhaps within the cradle of despair lay seeds of love waiting to sprout. Was it possible that they could discover something extraordinary amidst their brokenness? As the night deepened, the stars became a vivid backdrop, illuminating a path unseen yet beckoning with promise. The gathering felt the stirrings of something profound within them, a communion forged through shared grief and the quest for understanding. Yet as the embers of the fire glowed brightly, one question loomed large, casting a shadow on their burgeoning hope: how do we invite the divine into our darkest moments, and in doing so, can we truly transform our pain into purpose? The gathering sat in contemplative silence as the night deepened, each heart dwelling on the powerful reflections shared. The flames cast a golden hue upon their faces, each one a canvas painted by the light of understanding and the shadows of uncertainty. Yet beneath this interaction was an unspoken tension, an unacknowledged fear. What if there existed a deeper mystery that lay beyond their understanding, one that challenged the very essence of their faith? It was Eli who broke the stillness again, a sense of urgency in his tone. If our solitude is indeed an invitation, then what does it mean for those who feel utterly forsaken? His brow furrowed, the question echoing in the hollow spaces of the air around them. Is there a truth that we are missing, one that illuminates God's intent in our brokenness? As if to draw upon that bold question, a sense of unease settled upon the group, prompting Bartimaeus to ponder aloud. Perhaps it is not the absence of God that brings despair, but rather, our limited understanding of divine presence. We often perceive isolation as abandonment, yet what if it is the state of our hearts that clouds our vision? What if God's presence is intricately intertwined with every fragment of our suffering? His words hung heavy, deepening the silence with unspoken truths. But Seraphine, feeling the weight of the inquiry, raised her voice once again. And what if our understanding of God has been too narrow? Limited by our definitions of love and presence? Could it be possible that in the stillness, God communes with us in ways we do not yet discern? The fire crackled softly, mirroring the intensity of the thoughts swirling amongst them. Miriam turned to Seraphine, her eyes alight with a dawning realization. In Scripture, we often encounter God revealing Himself in wildernesses, in dreams, in whispers. Each silent encounter a testament that His breath still warms our hearts, even when we feel frigid. Bartimaeus leaned closer, his voice lowered but resonating with conviction. Indeed, God can work through our shadows, even as He remains mysterious. Could it be that within our deepest despair lies a divine truth waiting to rise? In our mourning, does God not also mourn, holding our broken spirits close? The unity in their questioning echoed through the night, revealing enigmatic layers within God's nature. Each participant pondered this, struggling with the paradox of beauty and darkness, love hidden within sorrow. Eli nodded, the heaviness lightening momentarily. What if God, in His silence, is offering us a way to explore our own depths? Could it be that His absence is not a sign of rejection, but a call to cultivate a deeper understanding of who He is, even amidst life's tragedies? A wild thought took root in Miriam's heart, and with the gentleness of a flower unfolding, she offered, instead of perceiving his isolation as a gap to bridge, could we not embrace it as an opportunity to engage more fully? Might we, in sharing our stories of pain and healing, find a common thread that binds our individual tales to the greater narrative of divine love? As the group reflected on this perspective, a stillness finally settled over them, a unity forged in the fires of challenge and exploration. They began to sense a shift, an openness to possibilities hitherto unimagined. Yet lingering in the air was the weight of an unresolved paradox. If God's love is meant to transform lives, then how might one reconcile the moments of profound isolation with the promise of healing? The dancing flames flickered, seemingly in response, as their collective hearts grappled with the profound depth of their inquiry. How can we embrace the silence of God, understanding it as part of His divine love, while still longing for the unmistakable warmth of His presence in our lives? In the hush that followed, it became apparent that the gathering had entered a sacred moment, a shared communion bathed in vulnerability and contemplation. Each person sat perched on the precipice of revelation, their hearts aching for understanding and connection. The flickering fire illuminated tender faces, revealing hopes intertwined with despair, each glimmering with the potential for transformation. Bartimaeus felt the tide of change surge within him, a current drawing him deeper into the collective wisdom of the community. It was evident that their questions were not mere inquiries but cries of the soul, yearning for a deeper realization of the divine love that had brought them together. He raised his voice, steady and compassionate. Perhaps our darkest moments are where God is most present, in the gentle whisper of understanding that beckons us to look inward. God does not shy away from our pain, rather, He invites us to journey through it, finding Him woven within. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, a collective heartbeat syncing with Bartimaeus' words. What if we view our suffering as a mosaic, each piece a reflection of divine love seeking to mend us? Through our brokenness, we are united by the same thread of humanity, each of us a part of a grand narrative where sacred love resides within the scars. Seraphine's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and she spoke softly, her voice a tender caress against the poignant night. But how do we navigate this journey without succumbing to despair? It is easy to lose our way when the light flickers dim. Her question resonated deeply, echoing the fears that whispered in every heart. In response, Miriam interjected, her spirit alight with inspiration. Nurturing our faith in these shadows takes gentleness and courage. We must lean into our questions, letting them be the door through which we encounter transformation. Like Bartimaeus, we must exercise our faith, reaching for the light even when it feels out of grasp. Eli nodded, insight dawning in his mind like the first rays of dawn. Then our shared moments of vulnerability become the very threads that weave community, creating a tapestry rich in connection and healing. We can lean on one another as we face our individual storms. The assembly's heart seemed to swell with hope, and Bartimaeus sensed a profound shift in the air, a revelation unfolding as their spirits intertwined within the space of grace. It is in our connections, our willingness to share and embrace each other's pain, that we truly encounter the divine love that transforms. We become vessels, conduits through which this love flows, igniting faith not only for ourselves but for those still encased in silence. As the fire danced, casting playful shadows, the murmurs grew louder, voices emboldened by the prospect of shared purpose. Let us not only seek healing for ourselves, Bartimaeus continued, but become agents of healing for those still wandering in darkness. Our faith can illuminate paths for others, penetrating the isolation that seeks to suffocate. Esther's voice, soft yet fervent, joined the symphony of expressions. Yes. We must create a space where suffering is acknowledged, where questions are not silenced but explored. Here, within this community, we can gather the fragments of our lives, offering them to one another in love, transforming our isolation into an intricate dance of connection. A gentle hum of agreement swept through the crowd, and a warmth spread among them, a realization that in their individual struggles lay the essence of a deeper purpose. They were no longer just seekers, they were becoming a family shaped by the raw honesty of their experiences. Suddenly, an elderly man who had stood quietly at the edge of the gathering stepped forward, his voice trembling yet strong. I have lived long enough to witness the power of love and its capacity to heal even the deepest wounds. What I have learned is this: God often works through our scars rather than in spite of them. Those who bear the marks of suffering resonate the loudest, their stories echoing in ways that offer both supernal comfort and profound revelation. His words hung in the air, and Bartimaeus felt a rush of understanding wash over him. In sharing our scars, we illuminate the pathways for others. We become living testimonies to the love that not only secures our hope but also fuels our resilience. This is not just a gathering of brokenness, it is a celebration of our collective journey toward wholeness. As the assembly resonated with this newfound purpose, hearts began to pulse with the responsivity of divine love. They were turning isolation into action, understanding that it was through acknowledgement and communion that they could mold their solitude into strength. With renewed passion in their hearts, Bartimaeus encouraged them to lean into their vulnerabilities. Let us commit to being witnesses to each other's stories. May our hearts remain open, and let our voices rise to uplift the lost, the lonely, and the weary among us. For it is in sharing our divine encounters that we draw nearer to true faith, faith that is interwoven with love and compassion. And with those powerful words, the gathering transformed into a sanctuary of hope, where pain became a catalyst for deeper connection. They would no longer hide their wounds, they would wear them as badges of honor, the evidence of a journey shared, a love that could not only mend their own hearts but extend to the edges of the world beyond. As light began to break on the horizon, a sense of serenity enveloped the assembly. They were no longer just scattered souls searching for healing, they had become a vibrant tapestry, woven together by faith, vulnerability, and the unwavering realization that in embracing their shadows, they had discovered the light. With this understanding, Bartimaeus took a deep breath, heart ablaze with the beauty of transformation realized. In that moment, they all knew, love is not just felt, it is shared. It grows anew in the fertile ground of community, breathing life into the darkest corners of existence, forging connections that bridge isolation with divine promise. As they stood together, hearts unified in faith and purpose, they raised their voices in a chorus of hope, proclaiming their commitment to carry each other towards the healing light. For they had encountered not just a moment of divine revelation but a transformative love that had forever altered their existence. Their stories would not end there, they were now a legacy, echoing through the ages, a testament to the profound truth that love believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. And with that, they turned towards the rising sun, ready to embark on a journey that would forever change their lives and the lives of all they met.